Conversational manipulation often occurs subtly, making it difficult to immediately identify. Individuals subjected to it may experience disorientation, confusion, or unjust guilt. These feelings arise even in the absence of overt conflict or direct confrontation. Such reactions are not misunderstandings but are the intended outcome of deliberate tactics. The primary goal of manipulation is to shift control and responsibility from the manipulator. Manipulation is understood by acknowledging social influence and pressure as inherent aspects of human interaction. This perspective is supported by extensive research within the field of social psychology. It shifts the focus from labeling individuals as inherently bad or malicious. Instead, it recognizes and analyzes universal behavioral patterns in social dynamics. Individuals are psychologically driven to seek social advantage in various interactions. This pursuit often involves using emotional pressure, framing, or specific language. These tactics are employed to achieve desired outcomes, sometimes unconsciously. Recognizing these patterns is crucial for understanding social dynamics. Learning to identify these behaviors helps protect one's mental boundaries. This presentation identifies 5 dangerous manipulation patterns. It illustrates their manifestation in real-life conversations. The psychological reasons behind their effectiveness are explained. Each pattern's underlying psychological mechanisms are analyzed. Exact verbal scripts are provided to neutralize their impact. The goal is to equip individuals with tools to counter manipulative tactics effectively. Manipulation often begins subtly, not with direct statements, but with indirect tactics. A common manipulative technique involves posing seemingly innocent questions. These questions are designed to function as a trap, guiding the respondent to a predetermined answer. This linguistic phenomenon is formally recognized as a loaded question. Loaded questions embed an assumption or premise that the respondent is forced to accept. This concept is extensively studied in cognitive linguistics and interrogation research. A loaded question is a type of question that contains a controversial or unjustified assumption. It does not genuinely seek information, but rather subtly introduces an accusation or premise. The question forces the recipient to defend themselves against this pre-established negative premise. For example, "Why are you always so difficult?" assumes difficulty rather than inquiring about availability. Such questions are often used to manipulate or corner the person being questioned. In professional settings, challenging a project idea is a common occurrence. When a manager responds with personal criticism, such as, "Why do you always make things complicated?" the focus of the discussion shifts from the project's merits to the individual's personality. This type of response creates a defensive posture in the employee. It hinders constructive dialogue and can negatively impact team dynamics and innovation. A person expresses a personal need for a quiet evening. The partner responds with an unstated accusation. "So, spending time with me is a burden now." This shifts the focus from the personal need to an implied claim. The individual is then forced to defend against an accusation that was not explicitly made. When an individual perceives an accusation, specific brain regions activate. The amygdala, the brain's threat processing center, is primarily involved. This activation triggers an immediate emotional defense response. This physiological reaction subsequently impairs rational thought processes. The interaction shifts from logic to emotion, creating vulnerability. This emotional state can be exploited by manipulators to gain control. A loaded question contains an embedded accusation or assumption, making a direct answer problematic. The primary strategy to counter a loaded question is to avoid engaging with its inherent accusation. Instead, the goal is to expose the manipulative frame of the question itself. This can be achieved by directly stating, "That question feels loaded. What are you actually asking?" Another approach is, "I'll answer, but let's be clear about what you're really asking." These responses clarify the underlying intent of the question, shifting the focus to its premise. Guilt tripping is a pervasive manipulation tactic used to control others' behavior. It subtly creates an emotional debt, making the target feel obligated to comply. Manipulators often remind targets of past favors or sacrifices they have made. This pattern is recognized as guilt induction in family dynamics research. Guilt tripping involves using indirect communication to manipulate others into feeling obligated. Phrases like, "I'll just do it myself," "like always," are common examples, often delivered with a sigh. Another tactic is, "After everything I've sacrificed for you," implying unstated demands. These statements create an emotional burden, subtly compelling compliance without direct assertion. Guilt tripping is a manipulative tactic used to influence behavior through emotional pressure. A subtle form involves phrases like, "I'm not trying to pressure you, but I really need you on this." This statement explicitly denies pressure while simultaneously applying it. It creates a psychological dilemma, making the target feel obligated without direct coercion. Such linguistic patterns disclaim an action while actively performing it, a common manipulation technique. Guilt induction can occur subtly, without direct demands or arguments. A parent's response to a child canceling dinner can illustrate this. Phrases like, "I'll just eat alone," or "I only cooked your favorite meal," imply sacrifice. This makes the child feel guilty despite the parent stating understanding. Guilt exerts a profound psychological impact on individuals. It activates the same neural pathways in the brain as physical pain. This inherent discomfort drives individuals to seek relief from the feeling. They may comply with a manipulator's implied wishes, even if objectively not wrong. To effectively respond to guilt tripping, first assess if genuine wrongdoing occurred. Distinguish between actual fault and artificially induced guilt. A direct counter-response can be, "I hear you're upset, but I'm not making this decision out of guilt." Alternatively, state, "Guilt won't change my answer, but I'm open to a real conversation." The foot in the door technique describes a social influence strategy. Manipulators often begin with small, subtle requests rather than grand demands. These initial small actions serve to test boundaries and gauge compliance. This approach suggests that initial small compliance fosters a habit of agreement. Subsequent, larger requests are then more likely to be accepted due to this established pattern. Boundary testing includes seemingly minor acts like making jokes at someone's expense. Other examples are arriving late without a sincere apology or forgetting to return borrowed items. Repeatedly interrupting conversations also constitutes a boundary infringement. These individual acts, though minor, collectively reveal an individual's tolerance threshold. Manipulators gather data on an individual's tolerance by observing reactions to ignored boundaries. Each unaddressed transgression provides insight into the individual's threshold. With every ignored boundary, the manipulator incrementally pushes further. This process leads to an escalation of manipulative behavior over time. Early intervention is crucial when addressing boundary-testing behaviors. A calm, clear, and immediate response is highly effective in these situations. Simple, direct phrases like, "Don't do that," or "That doesn't work for me," are impactful. These statements clearly communicate the boundary without emotional escalation. Allowing a period of silence after the statement reinforces the asserted boundary. Semantic distortion, also known as word twisting or reality distortion, is a manipulative communication tactic. It involves taking a clear and reasonable statement made by someone. This statement is then repeated back in an altered form. The alteration can involve exaggeration, taking words out of context, or entirely changing their meaning. The purpose is to force the original speaker to defend a distorted version of their words. This tactic aims to undermine the speaker's credibility and control the narrative. Conversational misdirection is a manipulative tactic used to deflect from the original topic. It involves twisting a moderate request or statement into an extreme, often emotional, accusation. For example, a simple request like, "I need some space tonight," can be distorted. The manipulator might respond with, "So you don't want to be with me anymore." This response inflates the original, reasonable request into a dramatic rejection. The focus shifts from the initial issue to an emotionally charged, false premise, creating diversion. Topic switching through emotional escalation is a psychological manipulation tactic. It involves a manipulator taking an initial factual or emotional statement. The manipulator then intentionally distorts the original statement's meaning. This distortion is followed by an escalation of emotional intensity. The original concern is buried under a new, exaggerated emotional reaction. To counter word twisting, avoid engaging with the distorted version of your statements. Instead, firmly return to your exact original words to re-establish true context. State clearly, "That's not what I said. What I said was your original words." This technique, known as reality anchoring, clarifies communication and prevents manipulation. When conversational twisting persists, establishing a firm boundary is crucial. State clearly, "If we can't discuss what I actually said, this conversation will end." This commitment to disengagement reinforces the demand for factual communication. Clarity serves as the antidote to manipulative ambiguity, promoting directness.